and welcome to today's webcast, In-System Sequencing, Deliver Any Pallet, Anywhere. My name is Roberto Michel. I'm Senior Editor for Modern Materials Handling magazine, and I'll be your host for this webcast being brought to you by Bastian Solutions, a leading systems integrator, and Movu Robotics, a leading provider of warehouse automation solutions. Today's webcast is going to discuss efficient pallet storage and fulfillment workflows using pallet, shuttle, and robotics technology. As customer expectations for speed and accuracy rise, modern warehouses must find solutions to streamline storage, retrieval, and order fulfillment processes. Shuttle technology automates the storage and retrieval of pallets and can also buffer and sequence the retrieval of loads for processes such as building up mixed SKU pallets. Versus using static rack and lift truck fleets for pallet workflows, shuttles cut out much of the travel and labor involved in your pallet workflows. Shuttles also have a very dense footprint that can make good use of available space, and they can be integrated with AGV, AMR, and conveyor solutions to further automate workflows. In this webinar, Movu Robotics and Bastian Solutions will explore how pallet shuttles provide a flexible plug-and-play approach to pallet storage to maximize space, reduce manual handling, and streamline your processes. We will also learn how pallet ASRS technology has evolved over the years to become more flexible and more robotics-based. Our presenters will also discuss how the expertise of a proven systems integrator ensures a good working solution over the long term, and all that's involved in that, such as on-time startup, ongoing service and support, and tailored training. To explain all these issues about automating your pallet workflows, we have two experts with us today. Matthew Thoreau, Director of Integrator Sales with Movu Robotics, and Eric Kinn, ASRS Technical Lead with Bastian Solutions. I'll let Matthew and Eric discuss their roles and areas of involvement in this alliance. But before I turn it over to them, a brief word for our audience. We'll have time for a brief Q&A session, so go ahead and submit any questions you may have using the feature for that on the webcast screen. We'll get to those questions later, and if we don't get to your question, we'll move it over to our presenters who'll be able to respond to you via email. With that, welcome to you both. I understand Eric will lead off our discussion, so please proceed, Eric.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. As Roberto mentioned, I'm Eric Kinn. I'm the ASRS Technical Lead with Bastian Solutions. And what that ultimately means is I serve in kind of a sales support role on opportunities involving automated pallet storage and retrieval. So I kind of serve and assist our sales organization on anything that might involve automated pallet storage. And then once we kind of select the proper technology, whether it be a crane, shuttle, something else, I then work with the design team, make sure the design we propose based around that pallet storage is most optimized and allow us to provide the most cost competitive solution for our customers. Overall, I've been with the company just about 8 years, spent the last 5 or so in automated pallet storage and retrieval.
Thanks, Eric. So my name is Matthew Thoreau. I'm the Global Director of Integrator Sales and some key accounts for Movu Robotics. I'm based out of Chicago, and I've been with the company for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I worked for different integrators in the material handling industry, so I have a few years in the industry. And then prior, I was working for global corporation in large roles in manufacturing and also automation.
Bastian Solutions is an independent systems integrator headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana, but we ultimately have a global presence through both our national and international locations, highlighted in the map here on the right, along with leveraging our Toyota sister companies of Vanderlande, Viastore, as well as Toyota L&F. So as a systems integrator, we're going to work closely with our customers to understand their operational challenges and ultimately develop the best material handling solution for their needs. As an independent integrator, we're then able to leverage the right technology and the best suppliers of those specific technologies to provide the most optimal and cost-effective solution for our customers that is ultimately all brought together through our modular software package called Exacta, as well as our in-house controls team. I'll hand it over to Matthew.
Thanks, Eric. So a few words about Stow and Movu. So first of all, Movu is a part of Stow Group. It was actually previously called Stow Robotics, and then it became Movu in September 2023, so last year, when we launched our new brand. So our solution as Movu integrates all the racking from Stow with a design that's optimized together. And we bring all the value and competencies coming from the racking world when it comes to a special solution like rack-supported building or mezzanine or complex layout and all that kind of thing. Our go-to-market as Movu is to partner with key integrators. So we provide our technology to key integrators like Bastian. Bastian is a strong partner of Movu, so that we can either be together a part of a larger solution, or we can also expand our services to new territories. We are growing very quickly, and even though our footprint, as you can see on this map, is mostly focused in Europe, our headquarters is in Belgium, and some in the US, where we are based in Chicago for North America. We also now have projects in multiple territories, and we are capable of managing key accounts across many locations.
So although this conversation is going to be focused on the shuttle, the non-captive shuttle technology from Movu, I think it's important for us to kind of give a brief overview of automated pallet storage technologies and kind of how we got to where we're at today. So kind of put in chronological order, the first automated storage technology for pallets out there is what we'd call traditional or masted crane with a fork load handling device. This technology specifically dates back to about the late 1960s. With there being a number of suppliers who've come to market since then. And end of the day, it's a masted crane in that center aisle that then uses these bidirectional telescopic forks to store pallets to the left and to the right, and single to technically up to triple deep. But with some of the advancements, we typically only see them really leveraged for single and double deep pallet storage. Double deep would be one pallet in front of the other to the left or to the right side of the crane aisle. As kind of an advancement from the traditional fork style crane, we then have traditional deep lane crane. So same basic technology of a masted crane that travels up and down the aisle, but instead of bidirectional forks that are captive to the carriage, we use what we call like a satellite carrier or a mole that actually physically travels off the crane into the racking and is then able to travel on Z-rail into the racking. Technically, it can go much deeper, but realistically, conventionally, we typically see it being used to store pallets anywhere from 5 to sometimes up to 12 deep, really just kind of dependent on the customer's SKU and SKU lot mix. So that's kind of the traditional masted-based cranes. In the early 2000s, there was then the advancement of an aisle captive shuttle. So in place of a crane that's servicing multiple levels, we would have what we call a parent-child shuttle that services each level and then is supported by a lift on the front face. When we say parent-child, we have one shuttle that travels in the X direction or down aisle, and then you have on top of it another shuttle that can actually travel into the lanes and support the actual pallet storage within the racking structure. Because of the increased level of automation, these typically are going to support higher throughput applications, but still leaning on that deep lane pallet storage. And then the last one, kind of the newest one that came to the market in about 2016, 2018, is the non-captive shuttle, of which is going to be the focus of this presentation, which specifically Movu. So end of the day, this is a free-ranging shuttle that can travel throughout the entire storage array, often called a four-way or two-way shuttle. Four-way meaning it can travel to any single location on any level, and then through utilization or leveraging the lift is then able to travel between the subsequent levels, so such that any shuttle can reach any pallet within the entire storage array with really no conditions beyond that.
Thanks, Eric. So we are, thanks to your slide, now we understand we are the latest technology in the market to store pallets and to move pallets in an ASRS. But that's not very new to us. As Movu, we started those systems back in 2016, and we've got systems running for 5 to 6 years in Europe with 15,000 pallet locations in a freezer that are all available for visits, by the way. So that's not new. As you can see, the basic for the system is that you have a shuttle, which is in black on this picture, in the front of that picture, that can move in two directions. It can move in the main aisle on that depth dimension, and it can also move on the left or on the right to store pallet on the storage lanes that can have different depths depending on the density that you need to have. So to take a look at the components of the system, so we have a few things that matters. You can see numbers to it. One is the lift. That lift is capable of, so we got different types of lift, but let's say we can move the shuttle and only the shuttle, or we can move the pallet or only the pallet from one level to another. We can also sometimes, depending on the application, move the pallet and the shuttle together. And that can go across multiple levels. We have, as a point number 2, obviously the shuttle. Typically, we have more than one shuttle per level. On very slow system, we can have the shuttle that changes level to get the pallet. On very fast system, we can have multiple shuttles running in the same level, including multiple shuttles running in the same aisle. On the point number 3, you see those deep lane storage that are in between the main aisle. So the depth can change depending on the SKU distribution that you have and depending on the density that you want. We can see on that system that on the right side, we have only 4 pallet deep, whereas in the middle, you've got many more pallets deep. And the limitation is not so much from our technology. The limitation would be from the, like I said, the SKU distribution and the order profile on your application. When we collaborate with an integrator like Bastian, typically Movu will supply what we can see on the screen. And then Bastian will add everything that's required outside of our system. And Bastian will manage overall the system with a software called Exacta. The shuttle specifications here, what's important is that the maximum weight as of today is 3,300 pounds or 1,500 kg. And then we have a temperature range that goes from -13 Fahrenheit to, plus 113 Fahrenheit. So typically what the range we find on the freezer on a conventional application. We have about a third of our projects that are installed today that are actually running in freezers. So a lot of experience in this market. So I will now show a short video of the Movu system. This video is actually a video of our experience center that we have built in Belgium. We have about 1,200 pallet locations with multiple shuttles operating in the system across multiple levels. You can see on the screen that the shuttle can move in all directions. The shuttle operates on the lithium batteries that will go charge by itself. It's self-managed, either when the level of the battery is low or either when the shuttle is not busy. You can see here docking to this charging station. You can also see on the video that we have easy access to the rack. We see some grading on some of the main aisle with all the safety requirements that we have developed, lock-in, lock-out mechanism, lifeline. That's a very safe system to operate with easy access to all pallets and for maintenance or for troubleshooting. We can also see on the video the redundancy of the system with multiple shuttles operating at the same time. And we see some of the lift that allows the shuttle to change level or just the pallet to change level, as we can see right now. So you're welcome to visit us. We are headquartered in Belgium, and this is where our experience center has been built. And it's been built precisely to welcome visitors so we can test all your pallets and we can look at our technology together.
Yeah, thank you for that overview, Matthew. So now that we've kind of given a brief overview of the pallet shuttle itself, kind of want to talk through what we kind of identify as some of the key features of this pallet shuttle that make it such a good technology to be considering kind of as you look at automated pallet storage and what it might do for your warehouse. So first, we're going to talk about design flexibility of a Movu pallet shuttle system. So overall, kind of one unique selling benefit of a pallet shuttle like Movu is going to be its ability to really bridge unique building layouts. So whereas a conventional aisle-based crane might need something that's typically a rectangle supported by conveyor or monorail on the infeed outfeed, this design here specifically shows the fact that we can really work with any building shape. This one is unique in that small system on the right is an existing building for this customer, and then they're looking to expand the facility, but ultimately needed 40,000+ pallet locations. So rather than having to use conveyance to kind of bridge, make a conveyance corridor with forklifts, we're able to do all of that material movement internal to the pallet shuttle system from the existing building to the new building. This really allows us to take advantage of the benefits of the Movu, and furthermore, it saves all of that ancillary equipment cost. On top of the fact that you would have hundreds of feet of conveyor, you're also going to be bridging multiple environments. With this being a freezer, that's more time that you're either going to have to be cooling a larger portion of your facility, or you're going to have your frozen goods exposed to a chiller temperature for a greater period of time, both of which could be bad for the end product. So this is really highlighting one of the benefits in being able to capitalize on unique building layouts. This one being 2 rectangles, realistically, your building could be any shape or size, and a pallet shuttle may be a very good fit for you. Whereas the conventional stacker, aisle-based crane is typically leveraging a long, skinny rectangle to maximize storage density. Moving on to another benefit of design flexibility, this design specifically showcases it nicely, is the fact that we can work within varying building heights. So you can see here in the back half of the building, we have about a 40-foot clear, in which case we're able to store pallets 5 high, whereas in the front portion of the building, the older portion of the building, we're only able to get pallets 2 high because it's a much shorter building. So with something like a traditional crane, you're going to really be captive to either turning your whole system and having a high aisle in the high bay, and then multiple short cranes that are only 15 feet tall, which are often very challenging to support with a crane. In this system, we can both design something that supports their shipping and receiving dock there on the right, but also takes advantage and makes sure we maximize that vertical storage density across the entire storage array. The way we do that is through utilization of those additional lifts that you kind of see in the background there. So we have the front lifts that can serve product between levels 1 and 2. And then on the back side, if we needed to get to levels 3 through 5 as directed by our Exacta software, it would then go to that lift, be moved to level 3 to 5 as directed, and then be stored within that higher vertical clearance storage area. Another thing that's kind of a good benefit this design showcases well is the fact that we can do varying lane depths. I know Matthew mentioned in an earlier slide, we can really do lane depths based on the customer SKU mix. So this one shows, we have some lanes that are, looks like 15, 20 pallets deep, whereas on the left side there, we're only, 2, 3, all the way up to 7 pallets deep. So realistically, we can add as many main aisles as needed to support the SKU mix of your specific order profile. Then the last slide kind of wanted to just kind of give a teaser on design flexibility is really supporting the material flow outside of the system. So whereas something more conventional like a crane is going to typically need inbound and outbound on one side or on the opposite sides of the system, we thought this design here really showcased the fact that we can inbound and outbound product on all 4 sides of the system. If the customer has a pass-through facility cross dock where you need inbound on one side, outbound on the opposite, that's easy to facilitate. Another thing this one shows here on the bottom left is the goods to person station, which we'll go through in a later slide. We can really add these wherever they're needed as well. So this example specifically only has 2 on the left side, just because that's what this customer needed. But if you needed more of those goods to person station, you could kind of follow that entire wall and add as many as needed, or you could add them on the opposite side of the system. So what that ultimately means for a customer in your design solution is we're really maximizing the benefits of the pallet storage automation to facilitate other benefits. We're eliminating potential ancillary conveyor or monorail, or potential additional manual touches with a forklift by simply inbounding and outbounding pallets where they're needed by the specific use case by your specific operation. So again, this one's kind of a teaser of it. Realistically, these stations, inbound and outbound, can be on all 4 sides of the system. We just thought this one showcased it quite nicely.
Thanks, Eric. So the other key feature we wanted to talk about today is the picking that to some extent we can integrate into our system. Basically, I think you mentioned that earlier, Eric, there's 2 types of picking. We can have a good to person that we'll talk about in a minute, and we can have a person to good where the pallet is static. This is what I want to explain right now. So as you can see on those 3 pictures, we have on the right side what the system would look like. The operator would be picking directly from the pallet and building order either on a pallet jack, on a forklift, or in this case, we have AMR, with iFollow, which is another product line from Movu. But you can build order anywhere you want. The key is that those pallets will be brought to the operator in at the right time. And every time you need at least to have 2 pallets, so you have a replenishment pallet behind it, as you can see on those Gravity. So this system works with pallet flow that you see on the left side of those pictures. So the shuttle will drop the pallet on those rollers that will go down at 4% slope, stop next to the operator. This is a few benefits to that, one of which is a safety. We have completely safety-proofed our design. So you can see Z profile between the position. You can see those rollers. You're far enough from the moving shuttle. So this is a completely safe design that does not require a light curtain or any kind of additional system to it. The only thing is that you need to empty the pallet once you brought into that position. And then you have redundancy by having always a replenishment pallet, and you don't have to wait for the shuttle to bring it if you need it urgently. So that's a big tunnel kind of design that we see commonly. Another type of design will be using that same technology, what Eric will present in a minute, and then we have good 2% options as well.
Yeah, so this is kind of a specific design, kind of showcasing that static or person-to-goods application, as we call it. So this one on the left here is a design where we were supporting, I want to say something like 150 static pick faces across 2 levels. So this one's on the exterior of the system. You can see in the foreground there, we have a mezzanine, allowing us to do 75 pick faces on the bottom level and an additional 75 on the second level. So the operator is going to go to the specific SKU they need, pick the designated number of cases or eaches while building a pallet right behind them. Once that pallet's fully complete, if they're on the second level, they'll go through some sort of lift to get it down to the first level, and then they'll take it for further processing, stretch wrap it, ship it out to their end customers. So again, just kind of showcasing the way you could really leverage as many pick faces as you need without sacrificing the storage density. In this instance, with a mezzanine. The picture on the right is kind of showing a similar concept, but doing it with pick tunnels. So again, same kind of general approach. We're going to have 2 layers to support a high pick face application, and then just leaning on that mezzanine to allow operators to pick from the first and the second level of the storage array. And again, we're going to do this without really sacrificing anything from storage density perspective, since we have, it's ultimately just a small travel lane for operators in order to pick or to gain access to those pallets they're looking to pick from. So moving to the person-to-good pick face, or dynamic pick faces as we typically call it. This one here showcases another benefit you could do that oftentimes lends itself if you have a high number of SKUs that can't be supported by a definitive storage lane or static pick lane for each SKU. So in this instance, we're going to leverage the shuttle and have the shuttle actually deliver to essentially a goods to person station, where on the left side here, the left side of the right image, a pallet will be delivered to conveyance via the shuttle. It'll then convey out to an operator who will then have the necessary pick instructions for the cases as directed by our Exacta system. So they'll be able to remove the stretch wrap, the designated number of layers of stretch wrap, pick the designated number of cases, and then pick them to the destination pallet behind them. In this specific instance, we're showcasing 3 potential destination pallets they could pick to. Realistically, that's going to be dictated by the customer. You could do as few as 1, as many as 3 or 4. Typically, once you get beyond that, you're going to start losing operator efficiency. So they're able to pick to those. Once they're done picking the pallet, they would make sure it's properly secured, go back into the right side of the U there, where it'll go through the necessary dimension check, make sure it's qualified to go back into storage, make sure it's potentially got the proper weight. It'll then be stored densely within the overall storage array of the system itself. And then the last thing to mention here is going to be in the center there. These systems are typically going to be built in with a dunnage for any of the scrap, stretch wrap, or things like that. Another important thing to note about this one over the static pick face is empty pallets are going to be managed by the automated system. So rather than relying on the operator to potentially pick that empty pallet, we're typically going to lean on our system of, if the pallet's fully depleted, it's going to go back on the shuttle. That's going to then take it to some sort of empty pallet accumulation or outbound lane where an operator or fork truck can handle it from there, remove it from the system, whatever they're looking to do. So that's kind of an added benefit, that you can remove the operator from having to handle empty pallets, again, in this specific person to goods type setup. So now that we've kind of gone through integrated picking, I also want to highlight another key feature we see, which is integrated sequencing buffer, which we think is a really big selling point for a pallet shuttle such as this. So this first one here, it's focused on level 1 of a 7-level system. You can see in blue and yellow, and then kind of the light blue color, we have additional main aisles as well as connection lanes that allow us to have pretty shallow storage lanes. So what we're able to do with this setup on the first level is really support up to 900 distinct SKU faces that are then presented to those dynamic pick stations, those 3 dynamic pick stations on the top of the image itself. So what this means is we're able to, as operators are picking, case picking those individual SKUs, they're able to be presented to the goods to person station. They could pick the designated number of cases. Those would then be entered back into the system, at which point they would only be stored in one of those 900 storage locations on the first level. This does 2 things. One, it means we don't have to worry about these partially picked pallets being put into, multi-deep storage. It also reduces a lot of the lift, a lot of the throughput on the lift. Because everything's stored on the first level, we are just leveraging shuttle throughput to support that goods to person operation, potentially leveraging 30 to 40 pallet picks per hour to each of those goods to person stations. The last thing to mention here is those yellow aisles that go east and west, and then the light blue, kind of those extra ones, those don't exist on levels 2 through 7. So what that means is, although we sacrifice a little bit of density on level 1, we have all of those storage positions available to us on levels 2 through 7. So we are able to support this case picking buffer without sacrificing storage density across the entire storage array. Another important thing that we kind of run into with sequencing buffer is doing outbound pallet loads. Some customers may have specific hours of the day in which they are looking, maybe they're noon to 2 hours, they're going to be supporting high amount of throughput. Their trucks are going to arrive and look for a pretty quick turnaround of those. So one thing we're able to leverage, with the Movu system in combination with our Exacta is what we call a pre-stage area outbound buffer, where as long as we know several hours in advance what pallets are going on what truckloads, we can do all this pre-staging within the Movu, and we could take advantage of downtime of the operation. So in advance of that 12 o'clock hot rush for the day, we can pre-pick and pre-stage all of those outbound pallets that are going to go out in that 2-hour time frame. What we're able to do then is, because we're pre-picking, we could then stage them within this pre-stage area. We can then also potentially strictly sequencing them. So if we need to do some sort of reverse stop delivery, we can do all that internal to the storage array across all levels. So we're able to do it. This system maybe is 7 levels high. We can do it across all 7 levels. We can distribute each truckload evenly across those 7 levels. Once the truck arrives, we could then use the shuttles in combination with the lift to strictly sequencing those outbound, get them to a fork truck, get them loaded on the truck in the proper order in a very quick time frame. All this internally benefits is we're leveraging the benefits of the automation while allowing the customer to quickly turn around those trucks. Furthermore, it allows us to leverage the dense storage solution without taking up additional floor space. A lot of customers, if they're doing pre-staging, are going to stage that truck on the floor, take up a 53 by 8 foot footprint, single level high. We're able to do that all internal to the Movu system so that we don't lose storage density. We don't sacrifice all that vertical clearance.
Thanks, Eric. Additional example of application here, I wanted to show some WIP application, work in process. So you have 2 examples here. The one on the left is showing a small storage that's used in between 2 steps of manufacturing. So you're storing the goods, how they're being produced on pallet or similar size. It could be a pallet support board as well. And they're stored into that small system to be redistributed when time comes in the right sequence for the next step of manufacturing or assembly that you might have. So again, an interesting application that goes a little bit beyond our logistic world, but there are a lot of applications for that. On the right side, you see a larger system with the same logic. You have inbound on the south side and outbound on the east side. So those pallets are brought into that system to be stored according to what the order is going to be in the future. We can pre-stage it the way Eric explained it earlier. And then when it is time to give it out on those red outbound on the east side of the system, we can distribute very quickly in the right sequence, whether it's for a robotic application, whether it's for a manufacturing application, or whether it is just to load the trucks in the right sequence. Please note that whatever is beyond the inbound, where it could be a manufacturing process, it could also be some conventional storage with selective racking. It could be VNA, it could be any system to store pallets. The point of our technology here is that we're providing the value of a buffer, managing very dynamically the storage inside together with Bastian, if it's the case, with the Exacta system, and we deliver on time those pallets in the right sequence on the other side of the system.
So now that we've kind of talked through kind of the Movu system and some of the key features we see, as this is kind of coming to the market, we really want to talk through the value of the partnership. What does Bastian bring to the table? What does Movu bring to the table? And really from the initial conversation with the customer all the way through potential upgrades in the future, we kind of view it as a collaborative partnership. So upfront, we'll gather all the customer data, do the analysis on how deep can our storage lanes be. Is Movu a good fit? Is something else a good fit? Are there potential other technologies that we need to leverage in combination with the pallet storage Movu? Maybe we're doing some sort of robotic layer picking. Maybe we're doing automated AGVs, something else. So we're really going to look at the customer's data, product specs, SKU lot mix, and really optimize the system, make sure we're presenting something that is best going to support your operation. We're going to do that internally with our engineering and consulting team, and then in collaboration with Movu, ultimately going to design the system, like some of the examples we've seen in the previous slides. So we're going to ultimately size the system. We're going to look at lane storage depths, how many lifts are going to be located in the system, how many lifts or where those going to be put, as well as like goods to person and static phases. Beyond that, we're going to leverage collaboratively on the commissioning piece. Like Matthew mentioned, kind of that Movu storage array is going to be all supported and integrated commissioned by Movu. But then we're going to come in with our Exacta software, which is ultimately doing the inventory management, doing some of that sequencing, the goods to person, all of those inbound and outbound orders in the interface with your customer's warehouse management system. Beyond that, once the system's live, we're then going to leverage Bastian's maintenance services and our 24/7 help desk support in collaboration with Movu's maintenance benefits in order to make sure that this is a system that doesn't just serve you on day one, but serves you 10, 15, 20 years from now, as well as with the grocery organization. And then the last piece, which I think is a really important piece, is most of these systems, most of our customers are looking to grow, but really don't have the capital to plan for 20 years in the future. So I think that's another big benefit we haven't necessarily hit on too hard with the Movu is a Movu system is easily expandable. So as long as we pre-plan lifts with growing throughput, we can also make sure the system can expand by addition of additional shuttles. We can also expand the racking should your system growth support that. So that's kind of some of the other benefits we would pre-plan up front or can certainly add in the future is just planning for those potential upgrades and retrofits as either your storage needs grow, your throughput needs grow, or anything else comes up that supports additional pallet storage. I think with that, we're going to open it up to, or I'll turn it back to Roberto for potential questions.
Okay. Yes, Eric. Thank you. And thank you, Matthew, for your presentation. We do have some questions that have popped in here. Here's a good one. Are there any specific requirements for pallet quality? I guess, like wooden pallets, is there any pallet quality prerequisites?
Yeah, no, that's certainly a great question. So that's ultimately a question that is an impact of importance regardless of the pallet storage technology. So we need to make sure we understand that the pallet is in good sound condition. We need to make sure it's not broken, make sure it's got all of its runners and stringers in place. I think one unique circumstance to maybe Movu is going to be that black pallets and like mesh bottom pallets may present an additional issue of concern. Black pallets are just hard because of the sensors we utilize to kind of pick up on those. Can often be challenging on kind of that flat black kind of interface. So black pallets and then mesh pallets where we don't have like a continuous runner to scan and potentially see, those can present challenges. One thing I'd encourage, and I know Matthew mentioned earlier, is Movu is always open to support testing of those unique pallets. They have a test facility in Romeoville, Illinois, near Chicago. They also have their Belgium test facility. So if we ever have pallets of concern, we would just get them in Movu's hands and they would see if it causes issues or not. If it does cause issues, that doesn't mean Movu is not a solution necessarily. We can always look at something called a pallet support board, basically an engineered piece of plywood that it is a captive board. It allows us to put the pallet on top of that. At that point, we can store it within a Movu solution without issue. So certainly a great question. Comes up all the time on these applications.
Okay. What would the typical maintenance setup be after a project is live? Someone asks. Anyone who wants to field that one?
I'll take this one because that's really the spirit of the partnership we have with Bastian or the integrator in general. So the way we'll work after the system is live is, I think Eric explained first that all the system would be designed together, the system would be commissioned together. So both Movu and Bastian would be very intimate to the technology and to the system itself. So once the system is live, we would put a service agreement in place, first between Movu and Bastian, to make sure that the Bastian technician would be trained, would be certified by Movu, so that they're capable to do everything they need to do on the Movu system itself. Additional, we can have service agreement with the end user, so we can come for preventive maintenance. So that depends on how many shuttles we have. That depends on how many hours a day the system is running. But I would say directionally, 3 to 4 times a year, we would send 1-2 technicians for 2 days or 3 days. And we will do the whole preventive maintenance of our system, which often includes, of course, the shuttles and sometimes the lift. And we do this together with Bastian, or at least in good communication with Bastian. We also have hotline 24/7 as Movu. Bastian has a hotline 24/7 as well. And then typically, in general, I would say Bastian would be the level 1 maintenance provider. It will be the point of contact for the day-to-day question and maintenance. And Movu would be the level 2, first that will cover Bastian and sometimes comes in the front if needs to be. And we offer as well on-site support. So really the benefit of that partnership we have in place with Bastian is that anywhere in the country in the US, but also anywhere in multiple other territories, Bastian being a part of Toyota, we can reach virtually anywhere in the world. And Bastian has offices in South America and many other places as well, very strong in Canada too. So as Movu, as Bastian, together we can go anywhere and support your system.
Thank you, Matthew. We do have one more question that's come in here. It's a good one. What is the sweet spot of the 4-way shuttle technology? I guess in terms of like the operational profile of a potential user.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it certainly comes up a lot, especially as people have heard about Movu pallet shuttle at trade shows recently. So I'd say that from a sweet spot perspective, that's really one of the benefits of a Movu pallet shuttle is, project sizes can vary anywhere from about 1,000 pallets to upwards of tens of thousands of pallets. So it really is very scalable, and we could really take on any project size when it comes to a 4-way pallet shuttle like a Movu. Other things that we talk about when we look at like a sweet spot are going to be a lot of the features we discussed previously. So, design flexibility. We can work in varying building heights all the way from as low as 10, 15 feet, all the way up to 140, 150 feet tall. We can also work in varying building shapes. Doesn't have to be some long, skinny rectangle. I think another thing to kind of hit on there is we can work within minimally sloped building floors. That's typically kind of a no-go when it comes to a crane, just because it needs a very flat FEM spec floor. Whereas with something like a pallet shuttle, we can make sure we design the racking to overcome that slope. We can also similarly design the racking to kind of minimize those foundation point loads. We can potentially leverage larger foot plates or really help distribute that load. So we can potentially work and be better facilitated in brownfield applications. Other benefits are going to be kind of that integrated picking. If you're looking to do pallet storage with picking directly from pallet, talking through those static and dynamic pick phases, that's kind of a perfect benefit of a Movu pallet shuttle solution, is that can all be internal to the pallet storage array. Whereas with the more conventional technologies, we're typically going to have to do that external to something like a crane. We're going to have the crane kick off to pallet conveyor that then presents it to an operator to kind of pick that. Whereas with a Movu, we can do that all within the actual storage array itself. Then kind of the last piece is really the sequencing buffer that we talked about, where we can leverage the benefits of that built-in automation to do all that sequencing, whether we are supporting a case pick like goods to person application, or if we are doing a sequencing buffer for some sort of outbound shipping reverse stop sequencing application. We can really leverage the benefits of that automation piece that's already in place for the storage array to make sure we're leveraging it further to support those other value add applications. So end of the day, I know that's kind of an all-inclusive answer, is we really see a lot of these benefits, and there are a number of places we see a four-way shuttle fitting.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you too, Matthew, for your insights and your detailed discussions about these technologies and the workflows that they can accommodate. That does conclude this session. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.